they're all around us, entities and beings. And when people have incubus and succubus showing up, it doesn't mean that, like, how did this weird entity all of a sudden manifested in my room and actually fucked me? How did that happen? Well, the thing is, they're all around us. Entities, beings, they're everywhere and they're here all the time. They don't need to manifest because they're already here. And basically, most people just don't see them. We are not tuned in to the higher frequencies to access better visuals. Let's say your dog, your cat, your pet inside the house might actually sense them. They might feel the energy shift and everything. They might see them, but most people don't actually have this ability. You do have the ability, everyone does, but it's suppressed. And you can actually work on that to open up your visuals to make sure. So that being said, these beings are around us. They don't need to manifest because they're already here and we just don't see them. So one of the first ways, and kind of like, I don't know, disappointing, sad, but people end up getting incubus and succubus because they summon them themselves. The usual scenario is there's going to be a horny person at the night or sometime of the day when they're like, oh, I want to please myself. And I actually would like someone to do it for me, but didn't really have anyone around them. Their girlfriend, the boyfriend is not there. So they look up YouTube videos or they go on Google or some other search engine, to look up, how do I get incubus and succubus to have fun? And then, they play around. It's not for the better, but they manage to summon incubus and succubus and they get messed with. Cool. First few times might be fun. They had sex. They're like, oh, fuck, yeah, it worked. Cool. But then it's out of their control. They are not in control anymore and they're being messed with by these beings and they get drained and everything else. So that's what happens. Another reason why it happens to people is because of their fantasies and kinks. Let's say again, you might have a lover or a friend or not, doesn't matter, but everyone can think about sex any time of the day and enjoy it. Or we can spend some wild fantasies and kinks just to please ourselves, and it's all up to your privacy of what you think about. And it's good, it's okay, no worries, it's your life. But people, spend stories just to please themselves, just to like, hey, this is gonna be fun. And hey, in this massive multiverse, everything happens. Everything you have ever thought of, every fantasy, every kink is already out there and happening massively, just so you know. So you're not wrong or guilty for doing that. But at the same time, most people are either not protecting themselves or in a way, it's like opening the door and inviting or allowing the vampire or a bad being to come inside your home. And most people just create this body, just create this being, and they're like, okay, this is kind of fun. And you just spin the story in your head. You might visualize it. You might just like think about it, and it's all cool. And then all of a sudden, some beings can like, okay, this is a great body because everything you think of and imagine, you're actually creating. So you subconsciously or unknowingly create all these realms where you actually have a body out there and you look exactly how you looked. And now you have all these people you've created and they're having fun with you. And it doesn't end there. It's like you are the overself, the higher self right now who created a little part of yourself. And the same way people over here are like, why me? Why am I experiencing all this crap? Why does my overself leave me? It's the same way we can just spin a story to have fun and leave an aspect of ourselves to be messed with by the other beings. And so consciousness can take any body possible, but at the same time, anybody is open for entities and any kind of beings that want to take the body. So all of a sudden we have a lot of entities jumping into our created bodies and they're there. And aspects of ourselves are still connected to us. And in a way, fantasies and kinks eventually lead to the voodoo doll effect. So we get the consequences. So there's that. Another thing, which is kind of funny, but not really, is people catch cooties. You might walk around the street, you might be with someone else, you might just look at them and you have a conversation online like you're talking to me right now. And let's say that person isn't really clear. They have succubus and entities, and incubus and all this stuff. And after the conversation, they're really, horny and all this stuff, and they have intentions towards you. And their incubus succubus will jump from them to you because they don't really need to travel and really fly or anything. They can teleport, and intention and imagination is enough for them to just, oops, there you go. So we can catch cooties, and by that we can catch entities, succubus, incubus, and just kind of fucked up meeting or talking to certain people. And at the same time, it goes sort of to same category. People in your household, if you're kind of like, why didn't do anything like Philip mentioned from the list yet, but why am I getting the experience? Someone in our household might have, hots, kinks, they not necessarily try to summon anything, but they're kind of open. And in a way, people around in your space can have incubus or succubus, and they can mess with them, and they can come and mess with us. Now, another thing which is causing a lot of damage is broken energy shield. Usually people don't take care of their diet. People are getting triggered, people are getting messed with, and eventually this energy shield that is supposed to protect us, if we somehow fuck it up, then we have holes, or sometimes, it just falls apart completely, and this energy shield is not saving us anymore. And now we're completely open to any harm and damage, and people, entities, incubus, succubus, they can just jump on us and mess with us. At the same time, these beings can open up portals in our space. So where it is outside of your energy bubble or within, if it has holes, they can open up a portal. And while you might not see it, they have access. It's like opening the door and coming at your place anytime they want. And again, didn't necessarily need to wait for the nighttime to come over. You can actually just be sitting around still, and you'll feel someone touching you and feeling you up and shoving things up your ass. But it's easy for me and kind of like making it jokingly, but it happens to a lot of people. A lot of people are actually being messed with pretty harsh. And, it's funny when I say it because I'm not experiencing it right now, but hell, some people are really suffering from this stuff. So again, some people smoke too much, some people use weird drugs or pills, and they just sit on this stuff. They get burned out, and now they get friends over here. So thanks. Another thing is we have fragments of us and others. Basically, some people go to soul traps, some people just have like, okay, we have this high sexual part that's really horny or turned on, and like, we live, and sometimes we're like, we get together with a person and we can't be ourselves anymore. We can't be that really horny person, really into sexual stuff, and like, I kind of have to cut that part of myself off to fit in and make this thing work. Or, like other beings might have an aspect where they're really into that stuff. So there's part of us that we cut off. The fragment of, into sexuality and everything else is actually, can be just hanging around in your space. It's like still waiting for you to sort of like, maybe you'll accept me. Like, do I have to go really far? I'm just going to follow you around because that's where I've been. That's my home. And so a fragment of you is constantly around and is basically open to attracting any kind of trouble, like incubus, succubus entities, and other weird beings that would like to have fun with them. Same with, there's a part of us that can attract them, and there's a part of entities. So let's say fragments of our beings, if people have gone through like a soul trap and everything else, merging with our beings, getting their crap, like you get a soul trap, you merge with plenty of beings and their traumas and their things and their kinks and everything else, and you come out like as part of like a massive mess. And then somewhere in it all, there's part of like their beingness that has been into, and like, let's say kinks and fantasies and everything else and sexual stuff, and is now, let's say, while you might not think about it, the part of them is still with you, and they will be attracting the being. So we might get that. And then again, the entities in our space, some thought forms, some feeling states, either they're put there against their own free will, and they're pretty much like there to just attract beings, like incubus, succubus in your space to mess with you, or, like we actually attract them somehow. So there's that. Another thing, somewhat connected to it all, is being targeted. Yes, you're a targeted individual. And some people or some beings out there might know like, hey, well, if this person hardly ever gets triggered, if our pushbacks and little buttons and everything we do to mess with the person doesn't get them to react, we can't get any loot from them, the best way would be to attack them sexually. And all of a sudden we have, let's say, it's so easy for other beings, specifically reptiles. I've seen a lot of reptiles having a direct connection to the Incubus Succubus world. And yes, Incubus and Succubus beings have their own realities, have their own realms, have their own worlds. So the same way we have Earth, just imagine all that, but it's all Incubus and Succubus. Ooh, the views you can see out there are nasty and kinky, but it's out there. So, some beings might not like you. You might piss someone off, and all of a sudden you get a little portal open up in your space, and these beings will come over and start messing with you. Now, I'm just looking at my little list I've made. So in it all, you have a connection to the world. Let's say again, and like reptilian opens up a portal in your space, and all of a sudden, where this like straight connection, or you have an aspect of yourself over there is a thing. And speaking about aspects, let's say this lifetime you choose to somewhat limit yourself. You have to fit into this human body, to this human experience, and maybe parts of yourself like doesn't really doesn't go to society. Like you have to keep it to yourself. You can't talk about your kinks or your beingness, your fetishes with others, and all of a sudden like, okay, I gotta keep it to myself. But there is a part of you that might be into the harem or really weird stuff, talk to I'm not going to mention that some nations that go really nuts about it. But anyway, some of us, have these things, and we have to keep it ourselves because society will not accept us if we just share about what we like or we don't, or we do and all stuff. So with that, if this part of you can't exist or be in this world with you right now, that aspect will be living out there. So let's say if you can't have your own harem, there's going to be an aspect of you having a harem somewhere else. You're going to have 50, 20, 100, doesn't matter. It's like you're going to please yourself one way or the other. And if you can't do it here on Earth, there's going to be part of you that will. So there's that. Again, if you have high sexual energy, for them, for Incubus and Succubus, your high sexual energy is like adrenochrome. You're going to feed them, and they love that feeling. So let's say, you might be feeling really great, and it's good if you have like high libido and like feeling like sexual and everything is great if you can just please yourself or, work it out with people you like and everything. But at the same time, this energy, if not protected, can be open to a lot of beings, and Succubus, Incubus will definitely take advantage of that. It's like, you have that energy and they're like, all of a sudden they're like a dog smelling you from miles away, and they're going to come over and not even ask if they can join the party. They're going to come over and ride on top of you or something. So there's that. So I've already mentioned our aspect of us. What else do we have on my list? We manage their energy and allow them to come in. So like, again, even though we have energy and attract them at the same time, sometimes, the same way it works with entities, we have mutual agreements. If you don't like someone and they don't like the person too, oh, it's a match in heaven kind of thing. So if these beings are into really, it doesn't matter what kind of sexual stuff they're in. And if your energy matches them and you're like, you might not have a partner at that moment or, someone, and you're just like kind of like spinning your fantasy and kind of like going there like or having this thing. I wish I could do this stuff with someone. I wish I could just, and those wishes, if you ask, you're gonna get the answer. So if some of us wishes for some weird stuff and you're not being specific, you have an open door inviting anyone that will take the place and will be able to join the party that you described to yourself. So there's that. Like, we have to be very careful with how we think about things and, be very specific, always that. Also, with it all, some people are victims of MILAB Secret Space Program 20 and back. And basically, if you've been in one of those programs, you're one of the experiments, and they're definitely, well, not all the time, but there are connections with being raped and just like, okay, this person, the best way to fuck them up is to have them raped. and they're just going to spin scenarios of how they're going to do you. You might have an organic body out there, you might have a clone, you might have like a clone there 24/7, and your consciousness is being moved into that body, and they will like mess with you, and you're going to come back and, you know, nothing happened to this physical body over here, but you feel so dirty and messed up, and like, ugh, you just can't handle that stuff. Like it's pretty bad. So, you know, people are targets of MILAB, 20 in back, super space program, and more. To it all, you know, there's also, again, you know, abductions, forced consciousness shift, and, you know, you might just go to sleep, and someone can use directed energy weapons to just tune into you, and not just directed energy weapons, but more than that, like off-world technology. They tune into you, scan you, and if your standards, you know, sort of for feeling states sort of fit them, and it doesn't have to, you know, they can just take you and just shift you into one of those bodies. So basically, it's kind of like tied to society, but if you ever tried giving your DNA samples to anyone to find out something about yourself, even giving like a blood sample, like, okay, just like, you know, you have to give it to doctors to get your, okay, here's, look, I'm all healthy, you're going to show your document and everything, or just for finding out things, you know, that little sample, eventually some of these hospitals and places are corrupt, so they're going to send your stuff to someone else, and now they have your information, and now they're like, okay, this person fits my ideal standard, and they can come over and mess with you. So it's very easy to, you know, just have clone bodies and everything else, and, you know, sort of like same sort of aspect. Again, one of the biggest things about, you know, Incubus and Succubus to know is that sex is somewhat sacred, at least, you know, from my point of view. And the thing is, in the whole intercourse, when it happens, they can reprogram you. You know, whatever they do, where they implant you with stuff or leave their liquids and more than that in your space, you know, it's so easy to just come over and reprogram you, change us and everything. And basically, you know, it's like an astral surgery. Sometimes we can just imagine, okay, here's my workshop, I'm going to put my body out there and work on it. The same way they can send their goons, and Incubus and Succubus will mess with us, but their whole energy, like we wake up and all of a sudden, you know, doesn't necessarily have to be just waking up. They can do it in the middle of the day. You don't have to be asleep, but they can come over and start messing with you at any point in time, and your energy is getting corrupted, and they're getting you, you know, again, sidetracked. They're getting messed with you, so all of a sudden you lose your goal, or all of a sudden you have different targets and everything else. So a lot of that is like changing, you know, how you feel, what you're focusing on, reprogramming the body so that you do worse. You know, like maybe you have a hard time losing weight or something else. They have such an easy time to coming over and messing with us and everything else. And then again, to it all, I've sort of mentioned this, but we have aspects of ourselves that are horny. So let's say, you know, even here right now, you might feel horny at times, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't do it, and I'm just gonna sort of suppress the feeling and go to sleep. Well, you tried, but it's like some people think, oh, I have a personality disorder, and there's like this personality and this personality and this personality, and it's all different beings, and I'm just gonna no, it's all you eventually. And with all that, you know, there's a horny part of you, there's like, you know, whatever, like anything related to the sexual stuff, that aspect of you, that part of you, well, it might go on adventures. It might actually want to be pleased once in a while. And if you're not taking care of it yourself, it might actually go on nightly adventures. And the funny thing about it, most people, you know, you're dreaming all night long. People have lucid dreams, people get out of body, people have astral projections, and you don't have to remember the experience, but it does happen to a lot of people. We're just not aware of it, or we're not seeing it. And because we're not aware of it, or we're not seeing it, our aspects will go and have fun and bring friends home, and all of a sudden you wake up feeling like crap, and why did you get this experience? So anyway, these are just a few things on my list on why do we get incubus and succubus. There are many more reasons why it happens, and if there's anything I haven't mentioned in your awareness, please let us know in the comments, share your experience. And if you have any of these beings, let us know, like leave a comment. You know, you don't necessarily have to tell it like, you know, my friend has a thing, you know, if you don't want to talk about yourself, feel up talking about someone else, and no one will know anyway. But the thing is, it's a serious issue, and it needs to be confronted. There's a lot of people having issues with incubus and succubus. They have no one to talk to, and they have like no idea how to deal with it. And just, you know, hey, it is happening. You're not freak. There are plenty of reasons why it can happen. And it's okay if we attract them and everything. We just have to learn how to deal with them. And that's going to be another video. So there it is. That's my little list. And hopefully it was somewhat useful. You know, you might think like, okay, here's what I'm doing. I should pay attention and, you know, share your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next video. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.